Now, with the physiotherapy that you are going to, the Ottawa Physiotherapy Clinic, they don't accept WSIB rates. So the only issue with that is if they do bill us, there might be the issue where you may have to pay the difference for it.
Well, what do you mean they don't accept WSIB rates?
So we have a fixed rate for a physiotherapy treatment per session, right? So there would be local physiotherapy clinics that do bill us as a WSIB rate, whatever that what that fixed rate is. I believe it is about $27 per session. So they would bill us directly, and they would not charge you for whatever the remaining fee is. Now, if the physiotherapy...
Did you say $27 per session?
Yes.
And what are they charging?
So they're charging for $100 per session.
And you're only giving $27 per session?
We can only cover for $27 per session.
Who works for $27 an hour?
Oh, that is what we cover for. Like I said, even if they do bill, if the physiotherapy does accept WSIB rate, they would not charge you for the difference.
And the other place does cover it?
So the other place, the Chihuahua, there was no issue with the physiotherapy rate. So they'd be able to bill us directly for that. Now for this one, they don't bill WSIB rate, the Ottawa Physio.
Well, you know what? That's absolutely disgusting that you're only allowing for $27 per sessions.
Well, I don't make that decision, right? So, like I said, I'm a nurse consultant, and this is what we have.
Well, you know what?
For our policy.
You know what? I can't afford. This is so sick.
Like I said, this is something that you should be speaking with your case manager directly about. I would suggest following up.
But I didn't get to my point, though. I'm asking you, how is it that the ulnar nerve physiotherapy was approved, and then I get a call saying, oh, we're only approving 27% of that? Like, how does that even happen?
Well, that's the table of rates, right? That's the rates that WSIB has established through legislation. That's not something I can even comment on how they got to that, to be honest with you. But that is the WSIB approved rates right now.
Approved rates? You're only covering 27%? Explain that to me.
I don't have an explanation for you. To be honest with you, the nurse would be a better person to explain this.
Really?
So what I'll do, I'll have a nurse give you a call, and they can discuss it further with you.
Well, I think the minister would be interested to know, why is it that, in my case, I was only approved for 27% of the physio, whereas in the case of many others, according to the physiotherapist, 100% is approved. So why is it that in my case, I was only approved for 27%?
That I can't comment. I have no idea.
Really?
Like I said, it goes by the approved schedule.
You're a supervisor at WSIB, and you don't know the answer to that question?
That's correct, because that's not something that I actually do with the healthcare costs involvement. Like I said, it's something that the nurse consultant can assist you with. And like I said...
So how does this work then?
Sorry, Mr. Susi, now it's my turn to speak. Now what I can do is I can have the nurse call you and obviously prepare them for your question so that they actually have an answer to that. Okay, so rest assured, I'll have a nurse call you, and you can.
Well, that's great, but I'm trying to get a feel for how the system works. So, if your case manager says yes, we're approving this physiotherapy, does he say we're only approving this amount, or does he just give a blank statement saying we're approving his physiotherapy for this problem?
He would only provide the approval.
He would only
fee schedule and exactly the amount covered under that. Correct. That would be provided by our healthcare payment department and our nurses.
When a case manager approves physiotherapy, how is it that your department there of nurses and medical people takes that approval and reduces it to 27% of the actual cost.
Yeah, and nurse consultants don't make the decision to cover, this is the rate that we cover for. This is what it is on the website, the WSIB website, and what physiotherapy clinics approve, whether they accept those rates or not. But
you're skirting around the question. I'm asking you. Well, let me just finish. Let me clarify my question. I'm asking you, how come some people get 100% of the coverage and other people you're only giving 27%? How does that happen?
Well, that depends on the clinic, of course. If they accept WSIB rates, then they don't charge the workers for anything, regardless of what the fee is.
But I'm talking about, let's just use this physio as an example. They tell me that they have WSIB clients who get the full funding for the physiotherapy, which is at, let's say, the $100 an hour or a session rate, and no questions asked. Whereas other people like myself, we're only given 27% of the cost. How is it that I'm different than somebody else?
No, usually in cases like this, and it's not just you, with other physiotherapy clinics who don't accept WSIB rates, we have to make the exceptions, or nurse consultants does make the decision to make an exception to allow what their rate is, despite of what we cover for as a fixed rate.
And why was I not given?
So the reason why we do allow for exceptions, one of the reasons are, let's say physiotherapy in your area is very limited. You live in a rural area, and this is the only clinic that you can find that, that can provide you the treatment locally. So we can allow for that exception. So I thought in your case, there may be other clinics around the area that you can find that does accept WSIB rates, so you don't have to pay out of pocket for physiotherapy. But
But when I spoke with you, when you called me the other day, there was no discussion whatsoever about my qualifying for this or making an exception because of my situation. There was no discussion. It was just, sorry, you're only given 27%, so if you can't afford the rest, you're done. That was the end of the conversation. Why was that the end of the conversation? Why was I not accommodated? Why am I suffering from ulcers because of the stress that I'm being put through by WSIB?
Well, usually we would like to at least consider other clinics that do provide WSIB or accept WSIB rates. Usually that is what we encourage clients to do, so you don't get you don't have to pay out of pocket for it, and they charge for us directly. If they do accept WSIB rates, then they don't charge you for anything, and they're registered with WSIB.
Yeah,
so they bill us directly. That's no problem.
Obviously, I'm not going to get answers to my question then, because but I think that it's kind of interesting though, because anybody who would be listening to this conversation would realize that an unfair decision was made with no regard whatsoever to my mental health, and no consideration that I suffer from PTSD and anxiety, and no consideration that I'm dealing with very serious health issues right now, and so a decision was made knowing that I can't afford the physiotherapy, and just putting me in that situation where it's too bad, I can't afford it, too bad. And I was put in that situation.